You will have probably seen this. This came out, what, a couple of days ago? Basically, Speedhunters is on ice. EA shelved Need for Speed, and that means no more funding for the site. So this is specifically new information about Speedhunters. We didn't know that Speedhunters was on hold. The reason it's on hold is because Need for Speed is on hold. Problem is, people have heard the word shelved or hold, and they are taking it as the series has been binned off. Now, I'm one that has in the past thrown incredible anger towards EA for their handling of Need for Speed. To update you, all of Criterion, including that small Need for Speed team, is now working on Battlefield on the campaign after they made Unbound. However, opinions aside, this is new information that Speedhunters, thank you so much, Speedhunters is on ice because Need for Speed is shelved. In case you didn't know, Speedhunters is owned by EA. I found that out in 2015 when I started working with EA in terms of Need for Speed 2015 and giving feedback. That blew my mind. I have no idea. I had absolutely no idea. However, hold, shelved. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I own a few shelves in my house. And what a shelf is for is you find something you, let's say, this iPhone mini that I will be keeping hold of for a long time because it's the best iPhone Apple have made. I put it on the shelf. Let's pretend this is a shelf. I put it on the shelf, okay? And then I go, now I remember I need to use my iPhone. So then I take it off the shelf. I wish I bought like a shelf up here to demonstrate this. And now I have my iPhone mini again. What it does not do is get placed on a shelf and then disappear from existence. That's not normally what happens unless you decide to do a clear out. That's a different thing. What they mean by shelved, okay, this is not new information on Need for Speed. This was an article that came out 5 months ago. Go away. 5 months ago, saying that Need for Speed will return in new and interesting ways. This was an article that went out on not just Traction, okay? This went out on Eurogamer, VGC, PC Gamer, IGN. This went out on many, many, many different websites, including linking to their own on the end of that report of Unbound. It was like, oh, the report of Unbound. This is not new, okay? We know the series is on hold, officially on hold, and that Criterion are all working on Battlefield. That is the official statement that has been released. This is essentially saying that Speedhunters is on ice. Now, just to prove it even more, this is why I decided to make my tweet. This is my tweet here. I tried my best. Go away. Go away! Speedhunters is done because Need for Speed is shelved. The new info is about Speedhunters. We knew Need for Speed was on hold. It's unfortunate to see, of course. Of course, I don't want to see that about Speedhunters, but realistically, most Speedhunters people are probably self-employed writers, if you will. And what's the word I'm looking for? Freelance. Thank you. They're freelance writers that do not specifically work for just one platform. You can't do that as a writer these days unless it's like a big newspaper or something. Anyway, it was Need for Speed's way to reach outwards. We know Need for Speed has been shelved for the sake of Criterion working on Battlefield. Anyway, Nick posted this. To be fair to Nick, I'm going to be real. He didn't suggest the idea that it is binned. Okay, he said once again, well, not Nick, I think it's one of his writers, said shelved. But a lot of people in the comments go crazy about the idea that, oh my God, it's been binned, it's been binned. This is James, okay, community manager for EA Sports and was for Need for Speed, okay, saying that this is not new information, okay. This, my friend, my friends, is based on the announcement that came out in February, and therefore, because Need for Speed isn't a thing currently, neither is Speedhunters, because Need for Speed is Speedhunters. This, as I say, 5 months ago, is when we found out that this Need for Speed was on hold officially is the EA statement. But there you go. Don't worry about it. Shelved essentially. Shelved! Tabled. Like, I understand for some people that I'm like, okay, maybe to be fair some people, English is not their first language or whatever. What does that mean? Is it a bad word? It means bad. It means put away. It will return when they're ready, which is basically what they've said in these articles. If we go back to them, there is a point. This happened before Unbound's release as well, by the way. This is kind of common, but essentially, what the inner workings. Vince Zampella, who is Battlefield man, he's in charge of Battlefield, is in charge of EA Entertainment. And EA Entertainment has Battlefield and Need for Speed. That's pretty much it these days, to be honest. EA Entertainment is everything that's not a sports game, which I actually find much more exciting because Need for Speed used to be under EA Sports, which means they had to kind of justify to the EA Sports people to make games. And the sports games come out every year and they just make infinite money, whereas now it's like more like a Battlefield in terms of scope. So that's good. I mean, I don't know. We haven't seen it in practice yet, but in my head, that would be more good than the alternative, which was under sports, because it's not a sports game. That would be F1 and track racing and so on. Anyway, do you have any questions? I'm sure there's some questions in the comments that I completely missed, but chaired, yes. I mean, you get back up out of the chair, hopefully. Yeah, he controls Respawn too. He was Respawn's head previously. Shelved and cancelled are not the same two things. It just continues. It really continues, and it bothers me because then you get even Engadget, okay? Hitting the brakes on Need for Speed franchise. Whoa! Whoa, hitting the brakes. It just pisses me off. It genuinely bothers me. I tag James and he's just like... Now, if we go back to reality, of course, there's rumors we can pull on about, you know, people, Codemasters working on something, and Criterion probably maybe could be pulling away soon. And like, we can all guesstimate as to what's going to happen, as to when we're going to get a Need for Speed. Thank you so much. There's a lot of rumors and stuff about that, but that is not a rumor that Need for Speed is on hold. That is fact, and that has been fact for the last 5 months. What we can hope is that once they finish Battlefield, that they will be basically putting that Need for Speed core team back to Need for Speed and allow them to hire and expand and so on. When will you become a table? Right, this is fantastic.
For them to hand off remasters to other studios and make some quick cash.
Okay, here's a question on remasters. I know people always ask for remasters, and I get it. I do get it myself. I don't think they can do it justice to the level that we would want. They've always said, would you rather a new game or like a remake of an old game? I think what I prefer is kind of how they did at the end of Unbound, is where they kind of blended the world. It was a little bit messed up and weird, of course, so the M3 lore video was just having to fix a load of problems with that. I don't know if they could do a good job. There would be music missing. There may be cars missing. There will be just... It won't be as good as it was, purely for the licensing issues, I think. And if they were trying to rebuild it like a remake, I think it would be even worse. I would think it's worth doing. I think making a new title and blending in those old ones would make more sense.
They won't remaster because modders do it better.
Modders will probably do a better job because they don't have to worry about licensing and stuff. One example I wanted to give, the new Tony Hawk 3 and 4 just came out, and I'm devastated. I won't be buying it for the reason that, like, I love it, the idea that it's back, but in case you didn't see, they've butchered the campaign of 4, in where you got these like free roam activities, and that was one of the best improvements in my opinion over it. They've cut content, they've cut music. I think they've got, apparently, based on the IGN review, they were like 6 songs from each game when they were like 30 something each, and the rest are all new, which again, all the music is more expensive, and I get it, and you could just play Spotify and the usual, but like, those run on pure nostalgia, those titles, and not great. So I'd rather they just don't. And they take maybe part of that world and put it into the next game as like a flavor. That could be pretty cool. There's gonna be a question of like, when Need for Speed, that always comes up. When? Need for Speed needs at least, in my opinion, 2 years to be made now. Which is great because that's a really like quick development time compared to like even the newest Forzas, which are like 5 years. So 2 years to make a Need for Speed game minimum, and a smaller team than most if they keep it a similar scale to how they did previously. So like 100 people. They could probably do it in less. They made Rivals with like less than 60 people from memory, which is insane. And like in less than like a year. So we're not going to see Need for Speed for at least another 2.5 years, probably. At least. Which is not great, but at the same time, I'd rather they wait. That means it'll also be out the way of GTA. A new Forza Motorsport won't be coming out, so... it's got to fill the gap, you know? It's not bad. New Need for Speed in production. Define production. Of course, we have given feedback on Unbound. That's obvious, but beyond that, that's what was happening, and then they're on Battlefield. But it'll likely, in my opinion, be a cross-generation game. They'll probably be this gen and next, like the next consoles by the time they release a new Need for Speed. If they release it early in the next gen and not on this current gen, I will scream, because that is one of the reasons it didn't sell as well as Heat, and also the lack of advertising. We've got a video on that as well. You know, you can already go and watch that. So there you go. It is on hold. It is not cancelled yet. Not to say it won't, because obviously that could happen. But it is on hold. But they have specifically said, and I've never seen this, they specifically said that it will return in new and interesting ways. I feel like EA just wouldn't say that if they knew it wasn't coming back. He didn't have to say that, but he did. Let's see. EA confirmed that support for Need for Speed Unbound has ended after 2 years. The team Criterion focusing on the next Battlefield. However, EA also hinted that the franchise would eventually return in new and interesting ways. They had no need to say that if it wasn't going to happen. You know? It's like, don't go over the Forza too much. Please, just stay in the realm a little bit.